A very good evening and thank you for joining us on this edition of the English News here on Rwanda Television. Let's begin with the headlines. Participants of the International Conference on Genocide Prevention in Kigali urge countries to take serious measures rather than mere words and articles. Young people expressed gratitude for the government's integration of technology into service delivery, highlighting its role in reducing corruption, particularly in services. On the international scene, sea levels around the Seychelles are rising at a rate of 3 millimeters per year, posing an increasing threat to the island nation's environment and economy. My name is Olive Nete, and it's always a pleasure to have you with us. I hope you had a productive Monday. Now let's dive in the news in details. Participants of the International Conference on Genocide Prevention in Kigali urge countries to take serious measures rather than mere words and articles, as in some countries there are acts of violence that could lead to genocide. Prince Mazi kicks us off tonight.
This conference convened over 230 participants in the field of genocide studies. The conference convenes as this year marks the 76th anniversary of the 1948 Genocide Convention. The Minister of National Unity and Civic Engagement, Dr. Jean Damascene Bizimana, affirmed that the genocide against the Tutsi, planned for over 35 years, demonstrates how Rwanda was abandoned, adding that there's a need to collaborate for genocide prevention. In the International Genocide Convention, the convention was signed by many countries, so there's need that each country understands its role in prevention of genocide, starting with pointing out where there are acts of discrimination and hate speeches, as the convention states. So, in DRC, we found hate speeches, acts of violence against Kinyarwanda-speaking communities, especially the Tutsi community. This is a crime punished by the convention, and even if there will be no killings, with just these words, there is genocide, and these hate speeches are targeting Congolese Tutsi. Adama Dieng, the AU Special Envoy on the prevention of genocide, applauded Rwanda's resilience of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Hence, the world has to understand their commitment to genocide prevention.
We have a responsibility to do everything in our power to prevent these crimes from happening again. The commitment not to forget and the commitment to prevent are two sides of the same coin. This act of the African Union makes prevention a core part of its mission. Yet, we continue to witness rampant and widespread violations that continue to challenge this commitment. Ongoing carnage in Sudan is a reminder, if we need it, any at all, of the painful cost inflicted on civilians when we fail to gather courage to trigger or actuate institutions and legal frameworks we painstakingly created to precisely address challenges of this nature. Courage to trigger or actuate institutions and legal frameworks we painstakingly created to precisely address challenges of this nature. While humanity continues to reaffirm the words of the Charter and the Constitutive Act of the African Union to protect our collective humanity.
In this conference, there was also the launch of the African Center for Genocide Prevention that will be operating in Kamonyi district. Participants applaud the establishment of this center.
Center for the genocide prevention is something very important. It's very important because when we look at the genocide and particularly the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, we can see that it is a long way. It is a process. It is unfortunate that when we are talking about the genocide, we tend to limit ourselves talking about the massacres, the total extermination. which is in fact one of the last stages of a genocide. A genocide has a history, has a long way, has different phases, where even it starts from the defining the victim and the genocidal ideology. We have seen it in even the speech that was in the opening remarks by the Honorable Minister Bizimana, where we could see that the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994 has started many years back, from the 57, 59, 60s, with even some massacres that are clearly the initial steps. We understood what was done in Kaduha, even in the northern and the current western provinces in Kibirira, you know. So I think having a center like this, one, it will help documenting even the narratives from the today adults. In addition to documenting, it is also important because the center will even and learning materials that will be helpful in educating the current young generation of today, who are the tomorrow adults. As Africa, a continent, and the world, we need to have a center like this that will be promoting research and developing education materials to educate not only the young generation of today, but other countries can learn from what, unfortunately, we experienced in Rwanda, to understand that we should not be there as bystanders when hate speeches and genocidal ideology are being developed and spread around us, like as it was clearly demonstrated in this conference in the region. So I think Africa, the world, we need such a center, and we are happy to have it here in Rwanda. It will even help in documenting the adults of today, their narrative, their experience of the past around the genocide. And yeah, we are very happy to have it being a research-oriented, being an education-oriented, and also we hope it will be a very critical and important asset in the region and the world.
The Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagement states that the center will start its operations in February 2025. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Prince, for the details. Now to other matters. A court in Paris has convicted Cameroonian French author Charles Onana of crimes related to denying and negating the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi here in Rwanda. The charges stemmed from his book Rwanda, la vérité sur l'opération turquoise, quand les archives parlent. Rwanda, the truth about Operation Turquoise, when the archives speak, that is in English, published on October 30th, 2019. In the book, Onana denies the occurrence of a plan to carry out the genocide against the Tutsi and questions its very nature. Onana's French collaborator, Damien Sérieux, who helped publish the book, was also convicted of complicity in genocide denial and negation. Onana's trial began on October 7, 2024 and lasted 4 days. It was initiated following complaints filed by 3 organizations, CPCR, Collectif des Partis Civils pour le Rwanda, Survie, and Ibuka France. However, Onana denied the charges throughout the trial. Key issues in the case revolved around the role of France's military operation, Opération Turquoise, during the genocide, and whether there was any deliberate plan involved in aiding the atrocities against the Tutsi. RBA interviewed Richard Gisagara, a lawyer who closely followed the case. After the verdict, he explained what such a conviction means. In terms of the right of the press, the most important thing is not the penalty. The most important thing is the fact of being recognized as guilty and what qualifies the person for the media and for the general public. So for us, that matters. What matters the most is a condemnation, a recognition of guilt for negationism, which will allow us to prevent this person from continuing to intoxicate the population. And the most significant aspect is the condemnation of guilt. That is the key point. That is a condemnation that comes after more than 10 years. For example, to obtain the reduction of negationism in France, a case was lost in 2015 by a decision of the Constitutional Court, despite the position of the government at that time. Today, this is the first time that this new law has been applied, and it is, for us, a just outcome. It sends a very strong message to all those who have found a safe place for negationism in France. Moving ahead on other matters, the 17th Africa Leather Value Chain Annual Forum, organized by the Africa Leather and Leather Products Institute, is underway in Kigali from December 9th to 12th, 2024, with a theme focused on fostering a resilient and inclusive future for Africa's leather industry. The forum is bringing together over 200 participants to discuss strategies for aligning the sector with sustainable practices and enhancing its global competitiveness. Nicholas Mudungwe, Executive Director of ALLPI, emphasized the event's significance.
The leather value chain is a very important value chain globally. It is valued at $420 billion. And the main source or the main raw material is hides and skins from bovine, goats, and sheep. And when you look at Africa, it has a potential of 20%. However, when you look at the value that Africa is generating from this value chain, is below 5% of the 420 billion. There are a lot of losses of the skins in the villages, and the other loss is that most skins are exported in raw state to Asia and other European countries. So our mandate as Africa Leather Products Institute is to build the capacity of the value chain so that people can start to utilize all the skins. It's also to promote the development of policies that promotes the value addition. And this is a long value chain because when you look at it, the leather sector starts from the slaughter point, collection of hides and skins, tanning, that is processing into finished leather, then making of leather products, shoes, upholstery, and so forth. So it has a potential to create many jobs for Africa directly and indirectly. But we are missing that. When you look at numbers, we have a loss of almost plus 50 billion because we are losing skins and we are also exporting them in raw state. So our mandate, working with member states, working with the private sector, is to be able to stimulate this growth. So the forum that we are holding tomorrow, starting tomorrow, we are looking at a number of issues that would assist us to stimulate growth of the sector. We are looking at issues of sustainability. There's a talk that leather is dead, but in our view, leather is not dead. Because assume if there was no leather sector and all the animals that were slaughtered, the skins were all over scattered, it would be more disastrous. So we are looking at sustainability, resource optimization. And when you buy a leather shoe, you can use it for more than 10 years. So the element of longevity helps to reduce carbon production. Yet when you depend on synthetics, it's a shoe of 6 months, you dump it, you buy another one. So there's more carbon emission and therefore climate change. So to us, leather is more cleaner because of longevity and also because it is based on this concept of circularity. This is one major part of the discussion. What we've observed is that for tanneries to make money, they have to process a certain number of skins to finish the leather so that they can sell that in Africa. But what we've seen is that because of low demand of finished leather, it doesn't make economic sense for them to process a lot of skins. So as part of the discussions of tomorrow, we are saying, how can we use government procurement to stimulate demand of leather products? If you look at governments across the world, they have soldiers, they have the police, Ministry of Health. All those shoes should be made in Africa. And other countries have started to do the same, and their leather sectors are responding. So we have a dedicated session to say, how can we use government procurement to stimulate the growth of the sector? And that is partnered with the standards. Because we are saying the shoe that should be made by these enterprises should meet the minimum standard, so that when the soldier, the police is working, is comfortable. So we are looking at it as a way to stimulate the turning of the leather industry. And that panel will be having people from the procurement authority, people from the leather sector, and other government departments. So for me, seeing is believing. If you look at our governments, in economics we say government play a paternalistic role. It's like a father. So if our government starts to buy police and military shoes from products made here, it's a good indicator, yes, and it gives confidence to the people that the products made in Africa are good products because they meet the minimum standard of the military, minimum standard of the police, minimum standard of the Ministry of Health. And I can assure you, we are in a partnership right now with a mine in Zambia called Kongola Copper Mine. We've signed an agreement with them, and they are financing a group of SMEs to produce industrial gloves that will be used in their mine. So we will always work with private sector, and we will always work with the standard bureaus to make sure that the product coming from these SMEs meet the minimum requirements. Even for me, my shoe that I'm wearing now is made in Ethiopia. My belt is made in Kenya. My laptop bag is made in Kenya. So these products are comfortable. Like the shoe in Kenya, I can even play football with it, but it's a formal shoe. So the issue is we can change that mindset through collaboration, through this kind of discussions. Because in the past, people have been shying away from the media, but the media is very critical to bring this message to the people. So we are also running a product design and development capacity building, where we are training our artisans to design products that can compete with the rest of the world. We are working on that with the Leather and Hides Council of America under a program called Real Leather Stay Different. Because when you have a leather product, it will just be genuine until to the end. So the message through the media, the message through the government, the message through the platforms like the one that we are having. And we are saying Africa is school children. Why should school children in Africa import shoes? Why should they walk barefooted when we can even produce comfortable sandals for hot environments, or we can make good shoes for them here? So we are confident through the partnership, government, private sector, development partners, and you, the media, will be able to bring the message home. The finance becomes expensive also depending on the business model that industrialists adopt. What we've seen in other countries, they've gone through clustering, where one enterprise is involved in collection of skins, the other one is involved in producing wet blue, then it passes to the next for finishing. So we think sharing of responsibilities in terms of segmenting the value chain can create and reduce the cost of finance. We have seen this working in India. And in Africa, we've introduced cluster concept, where we are aggregating either SMEs to operate under one roof with shared equipment. We have bought equipment in different countries through the sponsorship of EU and sponsorship of Badia. Like here in Kigali, we bought equipment which is at Masaka, which can then be utilized by the SMEs. But on finance, we are saying development banks in Africa, like some of them that I've mentioned, we are working with them to come up with finance that is suitable for the value chain.
Now moving ahead to other matters, young people expressed gratitude for the government's integration of technology into service delivery, highlighting its role in reducing corruption, particularly in services now provided without the need for face-to-face interaction. On December 9th, 2024, in Muhanga district, the country marked International Anti-Corruption Day, reflecting on the progress made in combating corruption through technological innovations. Technology is recognized as a key tool in Rwanda's fight against corruption and has received international acclaim for its effectiveness. The Ombudsperson, Madeleine Nirere, emphasized that the government is committed to instilling values of integrity among citizens while promoting technological solutions that minimize direct interaction between service seekers and providers. This reduction is face-to-face contact, she noted, is crucial in mitigating opportunities for corruption and ensuring greater transparency in service delivery.
We need to instill in our youth not only integrity, but also honesty, flexibility, and other key values. This will help make our country a better place. If we have a good country today, it is essential to maintain it in that way. The online system we use allows individuals to submit their case, while the other party presents their point of view, and they only meet for the trial. Additionally, exams for jobs are now conducted using technological equipment. Everyone gets access to a computer to respond to the questions, and the system automatically corrects the answers. This means that once you finish the exam, you can be certain whether you have succeeded or failed. The efforts put into technology have been of a great assistance. There is also a new system being prepared that will connect various institutions such as Minalog and the Ombudsperson office, where residents can report corruption by using a code. The system will then provide a reference code for the report.
Ahead, Rwandan youth who were born in the country express great appreciation for being born in their homeland and deeply value those who made sacrifices to ensure the country is peaceful and secure. And Nora Gladys has more on this.
Some Rwandan youth say that living well in their country is of immense value because the country enjoys peace. They advise their peers who do not appreciate this to understand its importance.
As a youth, we have to be responsible and accountable for having the country, not for just today, but at the whole day that we are going to be in our country, the whole life that we have, and also the coming generation that will come from us. Not only us will understand the value of having country without just taking as something which is invaluable, something which is granted for a short time. So the country, it's important to not only to me, not only to you, not only to everyone else, but all of us as a citizen. Whenever we are as a young generation, we have to take it as valuable by doing the activities that support us in our daily life and also support our family and also the community. Because once, for me as Emmanuel, when I change, my group is going to be changed and also the whole community is going to be changed. So that is the value that I have to take to understand the value, the culture of Rwanda, and also put them in practice so that in the coming time it will be also be a foundation.
Surely, no one is unaware of the challenges of being a refugee. Reaching this point where we are no longer called refugees is of great value, thanks to our leadership and the security of our country. As youth, we are very grateful. Anyone can see that we have a beautiful and peaceful country. On the other hand, some youth were born in exile.
Understanding the importance of being in your own homeland, this is something we deeply appreciate. Showing me that I am truly home makes me feel like someone who has returned to their roots and is living well in their own house.
We came from Central Africa and arrived here as a whole group, but many of us chose to stay here after realizing that this place is good and we also want to continue studying here. The commissioner in charge of good governance and legal affairs at the National Youth Council in Kicukiro district, Rugira Homne Miraj, emphasizes that Rwandan youth should fully understand the great value of having their own country and not being labeled as refugees.
The fact that Rwanda is peaceful today is thanks to both you and me as the youth, and it is our role to continue preserving the achievements made. Being called a refugee is not a good thing. Even Rwandans were displaced in 1959 and some became refugees during the genocide. However, the good thing we have today is that no Rwandan is called a refugee because Rwanda encouraged all its citizens, wherever they are, to return to their homeland so we could rebuild our country together.
Currently, Rwanda hosts 133,062 refugees from various countries, with 61.3% from Democratic Republic of Congo and 38.1% from Burundi. Enora Gladys, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Enora, for the details. Now to the education sector. Through school-based debates, the Aspire Debate organization has introduced an innovative approach to educating youth on preventing gender-based violence by building on their existing knowledge. Prince Manzi has more on this.
These debates, once common in secondary schools and universities to help students improve their English language skills, have evolved to address critical issues affecting public health, such as gender-based violence. Participants say the debates not only enhance their learning, but also instill a sense of service to the country from an early age.
Naturally, debates are important, and I have been debating in different debate formats, but this new format called a British parliamentary debate that allow you only 15 minutes to put up your arguments together. It put us in a position where if you are faced with a problem, you start to find solution right away. Instead of waiting for a whole year, whole months to pass, within that short period of time, you start to find solutions. So that's one of the impact this British parliamentary debate format is having on most of the debaters. We all know that it's triggering percentage about how gender-based violence is happening across the world. So we believe discussing this topic create more awareness to people who are committing gender-based violence, such as sexual violence, physical violence, sexual violence ranging from rape to forced sex, even with your own partner. Physical violence where people fighting for little things that might lead to death of other people. So when we come like this and make this awareness, we believe it will reduce the number of cases when it comes to sexual violence, when it comes to physical violence, that also leads to psychological violence. When people suffer from psychological violence, it takes them a long time and they live with it, causing mental problems. So that's why we see this debate as a means to create awareness that people can desist from violence, especially the most victims are women, that people can desist from violence against women.
Okay, the debate helped me to gain the skills and the experience, of course, and I can use that experience and the skills to support the community through education and empowering women to fight against gender-based violence.
The organizers of these discussions state that such debates have a unique ability to solve problems, as demonstrated by research from various institutions.
It was, first of all, to do awareness among young people, especially the university students, to make them aware of the gender-based violence that is present in the community, but also to really understand by themselves. It is that for them voluntarily to go and do research, come and inform us, or they come and they tell other friends, they share the information and knowledge that they have gathered out of those research that have been able to do, but in a very competitive way. And we understand that because they expect to get an award at the end of the day, it compels them or it enforces them and encourages them to do more research, which is different from the sit-down approach that sometimes it is being done. And we know that young people, always it's very difficult to get young people. You can only find young people in three places, that is church, school, and home. So if you don't get them there, and how can we best engage them at school? So the best way of engaging them at school, it is these debates, because first of all, it helps them to improve their English speaking skills, but their listening skills, their intra and interpersonal communication skills, but also to get more knowledge done by themselves, the research done by themselves, and inform others. So that's why we are carrying out this activity.
These compositions kicked off in 12 universities but will be extended to secondary schools across the country. A 2022 report by Transparency International Rwanda revealed that gender-based violence prevalence stands at an average of 41.2% in universities and 36.7% in secondary schools.
We'll take a short break and then come back with international matters. Welcome back now to matters making headlines globally. Sea levels around the Seychelles are rising at a rate of 3 millimeters per year, posing an increasing threat to the island nation's environment and economy. VOA has more on this.
There may be plenty of fish today at this market in Victoria, the capital of the Seychelles. But veteran fisherman Cliff Morrell says that's not always the case.
Sometimes we don't get enough fish, because of climate change. The temperature is very hot, and then the fish need to go far in the deep sea.
Charlize Federia manages this dive center on Mahe. the main island in this archipelago of Africa's east coast. She has seen firsthand how global warming has affected the creatures in this part of the Indian Ocean.
Literally, and I mean that, almost crying underwater because I was like, where's the sharks, where's the stingrays, where's everything, I'm seeing nothing.
She also says the changes to the coral have been drastic during her lifetime.
When I started diving, there was a coral bleaching, but it gets so much worse now. Although we have seen that corals grow faster than we think, it's still not fast enough to adapt with the changing sea temperatures.
We've had several warming events. Every time you have a warming event, your reef collapses, the living coral dies, and then it comes back, but it doesn't come back to the same level.
Another phenomenon, higher than usual rainfall, causing flooding and landslides. Heavy rains destroyed this home outside Victoria last year. Several people died. The heavy rainfall also threatens the
And the story brings us to the end of tonight's bulletin, but before we go, a quick recap of the top stories we've covered. Participants of the International Conference on Genocide Prevention in Kigali urge countries to take serious measures rather than mere words and articles. Young people expressed gratitude for the government's integration of technology into service delivery, highlighting its role in reducing corruption, particularly in services now provided without the need to face-to-face interaction. On the international scene, sea levels around the Seychelles are rising at a rate of 3 millimeters per year, posing an increasing threat to the island's nation's environment and economy. And that wraps up today's bulletin. Thank you for joining us for today's broadcast. On behalf of the entire news team, we wish you a productive week ahead. Stay safe.